Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
Hey, we're in the studio today with someone who helped get this all started a couple of years ago.
Don't blame me.
It's all his fault. Vinny Rebus is in the studio with us, the founder and CEO of Indie Connect. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Or maybe I should say welcome back. It's been a while.
It has. It has.
You've had a lot of things going on since then, a lot of interesting things, I'm going to say. What we're going to talk about today is actually two different projects that you're working on. One of them is an app that you have created, but let's start off with something that I think is very cool that you're offering to all of our listeners out there, and that is a 3-day boot camp that Indie Connect is sponsoring.
Absolutely. What I've found in doing a lot of consulting with artists here in town is that they are always asking the exact same questions. They want to know why it's taken so long for them to get plugged in. They want to know how to do, how to get into being on a songwriter's night. They want to know how to get the attention of a publisher because they keep making phone calls and nobody answers or nobody will allow them to submit anything. It's just been a real struggle for a lot of artists. They say this is a 5-year town, and the reason for that is because it takes that long to build your credibility, to build your contact list, so that you've got people who trust you, who can open doors for you. So we created this boot camp, and it's going to be something that's recurring, and we'll also have a version of it online as well called Plugging into Nashville. And the whole idea behind it is you get to learn all the trade secrets of Nashville from producers, from booking agents or tour managers, and from entertainment attorneys and hit songwriters and publishers, the people who will tell you this is how you approach us. What I've found is that Nashville has its own way of doing things, and it's very different than LA. It's very different than New York. And of course, it's very different than small town USA anywhere.
We've been saying that for a long time, that Nashville is a city that breathes upon itself when it comes to the music business. It really doesn't reflect Los Angeles or New York or Chicago or Boston or Austin or any of those markets.
Not at all. I mean, the first thing is that we are nowhere near as competitive when it comes to attitude. Here, you get the trust of one or two people, and they will open doors for you. It can happen pretty quickly, but you've got to get that trust. You've got to earn that trust. In New York, in LA, and I've done business in both. When I lived in Connecticut, my publisher was in New York. I mean, it was very dog eat dog, and people were very, very. They would never share their content.
Very close to the best.
Very close.
Yeah.
And I know LA is the same way. It's been a very interesting one. It was very interesting to move to Nashville and find that people were really open. When I first started Indie Connect, we basically started as just a networking meeting. I had 5 people the first week. Just let's get together and talk music business. The second week I had 10, and by the third week I had 20, 25 people come in.
Right.
And we had a speaker, like you were a speaker many times. The bottom line is that people who came out of the woodwork, like you, people who are industry pros, came and they actually networked with people. Pam Lewis, Garth Brooks' manager. I'd like to come down and talk to people about PR and management and stuff. Scott Welch, who managed Alanis Morissette, Leon Rimes, all these people. I'll come down and talk about management. I mean, it was amazing how people would come out. We don't do those events anymore. And this is kind of a culmination of that. This is all of those people who know how to get plugged in, who are looking for independent artists to work with, publishers that can open the doors. Part of what we're actually introducing is, how do you network? How do you find the publishers? How do you build a relationship with them first?
I want to step back just a moment. When you talk about these mixers mixers, and they were actually more than that because they were lunch mixers or breakfasts or industry gatherings. It was a great way to network. And if you had a speaker, one time we had a publicist, and that publicist talked for 15, 20 minutes and then had an hour's worth of questions to answer. Back then, it was just the cost of the meal, come in and enjoy yourself and learn something. And that's what's so vitally important, because especially like you said, when you can get people like Pam Lewis or Scott Welsh to share their years and years and years of wealth of information, you really can't buy that unless it's in a book.
Absolutely. And that's part of what's different here in Nashville, because these people are open to doing that. So what we've done is we've assembled a rotating faculty of people like yourself, people who are industry pros, who have the experience, who have the connections, who can walk you through, this is how you do this. This is how you get connected in this area. Or these are the secret meetings that you don't know about. And I can introduce you to that. I mean, you and I go to several of them.
Right.
That the public is not invited to, but they're very high level. And it's that kind of thing where the people who put those on, who host those, or who can invite people to those are going to be there.
It's much like, I use the term, it's not amateur hour. These are all professionals.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I understand. And jumping back, in fact, learning something, all my years road managing, I was just on the phone with someone earlier today who was talking about, gee, I used to do all this flying. I never knew about frequent flyer miles. And I'm going, if you flew all those miles, you should have joined every single one of those clubs, because those are miles that you can use. And that's not even music business related, but it's just common sense. And that's really a lot of the music businesses we've all learned the hard way. A lot of it's just common sense and knowing people and knowing things.
Absolutely. And I agree 100%. I mean, people go to conferences to try to meet those people, but there's thousands of people there. We're limiting our events to no more than 25. You actually get to sit down and have a meal with these people and ask your questions. There will be Q&A time. You get to build a relationship with them. The other piece is that there are things that they do here in Nashville that are very different than they do things in New York or LA. For instance, when you write with somebody here, when you write a song, whoever's in the room, whoever's sharing that, it's kind of assumed here that everybody gets an equal share of the song.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you brought in 90% of it. If somebody added a line, if somebody added a chorus, it doesn't matter. You don't get that in LA and you don't get that in New York. It's as soon as the song is over, okay, I wrote 75%. No, you wrote 30. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so you have to know those kind of rules. You have to know how can you approach a producer to pitch your song, because it's very different here than it is somewhere else. And where do you get the pitch sheets? Where do you find out about those kind of things?
And that's another aspect of Nashville over other markets, is this is still a very strong music city. Even though Music Row ain't what it used to be.
It's true.
It's become more condos and offices than it has become recording studios and record labels. There is still this huge appetite for music, and not just country. So if you're not a country artist, don't worry about Nashville. I mean, it's got a great rock crowd. It's got a great Christian demographic. It's even got a good jazz market here.
It's got a pop market
now.
Pop
market, yeah.
Everything.
So whatever you write, there's going to be a place for it to fit in Nashville. And I like what you said. It is the competition isn't as much. In fact, you could replace the word competition with camaraderie, because the songwriters will work together. You'll be buds.
That's exactly it. It's amazing. Again, it comes down to finding the people that you trust. And probably the biggest reason that I wanted to do this workshop was definitely finding the people you trust is great. Finding the people you can't trust, that's the biggest thing.
Is even more important, yeah.
There are sharks. I mean, this is the kind of city that probably brings in, I don't know what the number is, 200, 500 people every single week who are looking to, plug into the industry and become stars. One friend of mine, literally the first week that she was here from Pennsylvania, got 2 offers for management. One of those offers, the person that offered it had never even seen her. Never seen her play.
Sight unseen.
Sight unseen. But when I looked at the contract, it's like, you don't go anywhere near this.
Yeah.
And so those sharks are everywhere. I've got another couple came to town. They were very young, probably 21 years old, newly married, They ran into a producer, took them into the studio to record 5 songs, charged them $25,000, and the producer is the one that picked out the songs, and one of the songs had never been cleared by the publisher for them to be able to record it. No one had recorded it before, so obviously the copyright owner has the right to say who records it first. So they ended up with 1,000 CDs they couldn't do a thing with.
Couldn't do a thing with it.
It's those kind of things that are everywhere. There are people that'll rip you off left and right. They'll take your money, and then they'll just say, well, we can't make any promises, blah, blah, blah. It's ridiculous, but they're everywhere. And so part of this whole workshop is, how do you recognize those? What's the difference between a legitimate publisher and somebody who's charging you $100, $500 to put your song on a CD that they're going to blast out?
Yeah, and where's that CD going to go, if anywhere? We just had a conversation earlier this week with some friends here in Nashville. Of course, this is CMA Music Fest week, and 100 and some odd thousand country music fans are going to be in this town. And the conversation, the dialogue has been, do I pay to play in Nashville? And absolutely not. Nashville is probably one of the very few markets, and Los Angeles can't say this, I know from experience, in Nashville you don't have to pay to play. If you want to wind up at Tootsie's or Rippy's or Robert's Western Wear or Kid Rock's Place, it's connections, it's resources, it's knowing people, it's relationships. But you don't pay someone, whether it's a publicist or a promoter or whoever, to get you on the stage, because I can tell you from firsthand experience, that person who says they can do it for whatever money, you're going to probably wind up getting a 9 a.m. slot,
Absolutely.
On a stage that nobody's going to be at. The folks that are in the audience are probably your entourage and nobody else. That club is still going to make you pay for drinks and food and everything else. You can do that on your own, but it's knowing the right people to be able to make that decision.
That's exactly it, because they're everywhere. The sharks are everywhere, and everywhere that they know that somebody is trying to get their foot in the door, there's going to be people there who are trying to take your money to help facilitate that. That's not what we're trying to do with this workshop. We're putting you in front of the people who are the decision makers.
As I said earlier, you get in front of someone who can answer all those questions that you have and answer them correctly.
Absolutely. People have to realize Nashville is not a town that you can make a lot of money in as a musician. I know LA and New York are not either, for the most part. I mean, but you have to know, if you came here to make money, where are those gigs? There's a handful. Yeah. And how do you get into that? That's the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about. It's the insider's information. It's the secret handshakes.
We're going to take a break, get a word in for our sponsors, including Indie Connect, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
No, thank you. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit about some of the people that are going to be the instructors on the workshop, because I think you have a great lineup. This is Bob Bender in the studio with founder and CEO of Indie Connect, Vinny Rebus, and you're listening to this edition of...
Hi, this is Larry Butler, and I'm the author of the Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, and I'm here on the air on the business side of music with Bob Bender, and enjoy yourself.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi, this is Vinny Rebus, the founder of Indie Connect. Our goal is to ensure that you have the knowledge, the tools, skills, resources, and connections that you need to develop a profitable and long-lasting career in music. One way we do this is through these Business Side of Music podcasts. I'd also like to invite you to check out Indie Connect magazine, our free multimedia online publication packed with practical interviews and advice from music industry experts. Go to www.indieconnectmag.com. That's www.indieconnectmag.com. Let us walk with you and guide you every step of your musical journey.
Hey, it's Chris SD from Sync Songwriter. Imagine what it would be like getting your music into the latest TV shows, movies, or ads. Your songs would not only get exposure in front of millions of viewers, you'd get paid to do it and gain a reputation as the songwriter that you are. I've been showing songwriters, composers, and artists how to get their music into TV and film for over 15 years. Collectively, they have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars from licensing their music. Their music has been on networks such as HBO, Bravo, ABC, NBC, Netflix, and more. In films or trailers such as Predator, Annihilation, Christmas Chronicles, Professor Mac, and many others. So many songwriters upload their music to websites hoping to get discovered. Unfortunately, this almost never happens with the millions of songs out there competing for attention. I show you how to get your music heard by the people who can actually make it happen for you. When you start getting your music licensed, you automatically develop a reputation in the industry. This lets you get syncs over and over again. If you'd like to discover how to connect with the right people in music licensing, just click the Sync Songwriter logo on the Business Side of Music webpage, and I'll see you there.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
Hey, we're back in the studio. Founder and CEO Indie Connect, Vinny Rebus, is sitting across the table from me today here in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee. It's CMA week. A lot of people in town, a lot of fans, but also a lot of musicians. Everybody that comes to town that's a musician is looking for a deal, whether it's a record deal or it's a publishing deal or they want to get on a tour or, they want to be the next it, whatever that is. It's getting in front of those people, and you have those people that are going to simply are going to be instructors at this 3-day workshop, which is just really the beginning of a series of workshops, right?
Right.
So is each workshop going to be a culmination of various subject matters? Are you focusing on one thing per each workshop, or how's that going to work?
No, each workshop is going to have between 8 and 10 of these industry pros covering all the different areas.
Over the 3 days?
Over the 3 days.
Gotcha.
Yeah, what we're going to be adding to it down the road is probably one-day workshops that are updated, that are more specialty. Okay, here, if you're a songwriter and you're not a performer, here's the songwriting plug-in to Nashville.
More of a mini camp,
right?
Let's say. So on a 3-day workshop, 8 to 10 people that are going to be there giving their years and years of vast wealth of information. Let's talk about the first workshop. What kind of people are going to be there that would interest the person that would want to sign up and attend?
We have a publisher coming in, Steve Block. Steve is a well-known publisher, but more importantly, he runs a very special event for songwriters that is invitation only. You have to be a qualified songwriter to do that, meaning that somebody has to invite you in, and it's where you get to pitch to 6 publishers who you would not have access to otherwise. He'll be scouting for great songwriters who would fit into that. He will talk about the whole industry and how do you get publisher and, how do you get to know a publisher? What kind of relationship are you looking to build with them? What are publishers doing now that's different than they were 3 or 4 years ago? Because they're into A&R now.
Guess what? The business model has changed.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that. People are chasing record labels when it's not. A lot of times the doors are not open to anyone but a publisher who's done the A&R that the record labels used to do.
Yeah.
So you have to know those kind of things. We've got a publisher. We've got Mark Allen Barnett, who's a successful songwriter, and he's also a very successful artist in town. He's also a well-known speaker, speaks all over the country to NSAI groups, Nashville Songwriters Association. He is an educator like you wouldn't believe about the industry. He is so good at helping you understand how to plug in as a songwriter, how to plug in as an artist, what to do, what not to do, what are the rules, what are the, we have, like, if you've ever heard of Gurming.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Gurming is when you take your CD and you push it in front of somebody who's famous when you see him at a restaurant trying to get...
Because that scores so many points right there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Gee, I'm going to take it right home and listen to it and make sure you have a record deal.
But, there are hit songwriters all over town here. And he'll explain how do you get to write with them? Because that's your goal. Your goal is to always write up. You want to write with people who are better than you.
That's a great way to put it. You want to get to the point where you write up.
Every time.
You want to start going upstream, not downstream.
There's 2 reasons for this. Even if you're writing up a little bit, if you're writing with somebody who has one publisher relationship, they've got a couple of songs, you now have credibility. You can now open that door. The more you start writing with people who have that credibility, the more credibility you get. The bottom line is then eventually one of the people that you're writing with will get a break. They'll get a publishing deal. Well, guess what? Your songs go with them. You get carried in.
And that's something else, too. It gets back to those relationships to be able to open those doors.
All relationships.
And knowing who those people are and how they operate, but it's that relationship.
Every time.
Yeah.
And the good part is that this is a relationship town.
And don't burn those relationships.
Absolutely.
Learn how to work with these people. You not only want it to benefit you, but it's got to benefit them. Otherwise, they're just not interested. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely. And it's just like working with your fans. You've got to engage them first. They've got to know you. You've got to take them out for coffee. You've got, there are things that you can do that would just endear you to them. As a manager, I'm constantly making phone calls to booking agents, to promoters, to all kinds of people that are high in the industry. I never pitch on my first phone call. I never pitch on my first email. It's always, what can I do to help you? Do you need any connections in Nashville? Do you have any artists here that maybe I can go see and help support? I want to build a relationship so I get their trust. You do the same thing here. And there are certain ways, in a lot of ways that people make the biggest mistake is they just go knocking on doors or they're trying to just make cold calls. And it never, ever works.
So songwriting, publishing, what else?
We're going to have an entertainment attorney, Jeremy Brook, and he's just going to talk about the basic legal things that you should have in place, not so that you don't get, mainly so you don't get eaten by the shark. A lot of people don't realize they should have a production agreement with their producer, even if they're just doing demos, especially if they're just doing demos. And it should have certain clauses in it, work for hire and stuff like that. You should have a collaborator agreement when you do songwriting. I mean, there's all kinds of things like that. And it's not going to be a legal workshop. It's going to be a let's take the risk out of it workshop.
It's bullet points, but at least the bullet points get you started. Debbie and I had this conversation. We've actually been having an ongoing conversation. What I'm having to have in these discussions with the other folks involved is don't worry about the horse, load the cart, okay?
I like that.
We'll eventually hook up the horse to the cart and go. But right now we got to get the cart loaded. A lot of that is the legal, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, getting all that put into place, because otherwise, if you pull the trigger and you get on down the road, you mentioned something about that production agreement with the producer. I've said this before in the show. I had a phone call once from an artist who retained a producer. They brought in musicians to record on the sessions, finished the album, manufactured, got it out there, and all of a sudden one day, a session player that was on the project popped up and he said, well, I want a percentage of every album. And there was no work for hire agreement. So you can't go back after it's done and fix that.
That's right.
So I've always said entertainment lawyers and accountants are the two best things that any artist could have before anything else.
It's insurance. You're paying insurance. That's all it is. The cost is way more if you don't do it right.
Yeah. The upfront cost is going to be, it's going to be a little bit of a sticker shock because, first of all, entertainment lawyers don't work cheap. They're not free, but they will save you so much in heartache and misery and your career and that song that you write or that album you put together, that album that you create. They're going to save you a lot of anguish.
Not only that, but when you're going to build relationships, you want to go build a relationship with a publisher and you bring them your masters, they're going to ask you, are you sure you own 100% of your masters and your songs?
Yeah.
Where's your publisher agreement?
And is it copyrighted?
Production. Yeah. And is it copyright? And those are all the kind of things that are just the foundational things that you need to have in place. I mean, that's across the board. No matter what city you're in, you should have those things. But it really comes into play here because people know how to ask those questions. They know what to ask. Publisher is going to ask you, do you have a production agreement? Are you sure you own the masters?
In some cases, they may ask, do you have someone representing you? Do you have a manager or an entertainment lawyer? If you don't, you better go out and get one.
Absolutely. Again, I mean, it's industry professionals. We're going to have a rotating faculty. Sometimes I will have, and I will actually gear it towards the people that are registered for it. So if I've got a lot of people who are pop artists, I'm going to find Amber Stoneman, who runs Nashville Unsigned. She's a promoter for pop and rock music here in town. And she probably does 5-6 events every single month. And she helps people get sponsorships, endorsement deals and stuff. If we have a lot of country people, then I might bring in a Pam Lewis, Garth Brooks' former manager. It's really going to be tailored to whoever's there. In general, there's always going to be songwriters, there's always going to be publishers, there's always going to be either a booking agent or somebody who is known for teaching about booking, does booking workshops and things like that. Always going to be at least one producer. We've got 2 producers coming in this time. One goes by the name Fett. He's an amazing producer. producer who he's not going to sell his production services. There's no sales. We're not allowing anybody to sell. You talk to people, you build relationships at the meals and everything, and then if you exchange cards, and then if you want to work with somebody, go and have coffee and build a relationship. No sales from the stage, which is very different than a lot of the conferences where sponsors get to sell. But he's going to talk about how much should you spend on a demo? What kind of agreement should you have?
And what's the difference between a demo and a master?
Absolutely.
Because it is two different things.
It's two different things.
Yeah.
And even, knowing, okay, if you hire a union musician, you can pay them demo rate, but if you release it as a single, then you have to pay them the balance.
Yeah.
So that they're getting master.
Right,
yeah, exactly. So it's all those kind of things that happen on a regular basis that people just need to be aware of.
You also brought up something that I think it is such the simplest thing, but I notice this with a lot of artists, business cards. Back in my days at the record label, people would hand us CDs or cassettes, going back that far, that would have maybe a name and a phone number or a name and an email and nothing else. And what happens is, over a period of time, those things change. So first of all, always try and keep the same phone number, always try and keep the same email, and make sure you have a business card with everything that goes out. Now, what's going to happen to the business card? Probably not going to be retained as a physical piece of paper, but it's going to wind up in that person's database, whether it's their phone or their iPad.
Right, they'll scan it.
Yeah, whatever it is, and it's there. If you don't have this, and I saw this happen a couple weeks ago when a client I was working with, the business cards were in the person's vehicle, and somebody of substance they ran into at the restaurant. And I said, "Where's your business cards?" "Oh, well, they're in the car." Well, that's not where they belong. You're not pitching your car, and your car's not pitching you. Always keep your business cards on you at all times.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't cost anything. Spend the $15 at Office Depot or wherever it is and get them made up and always have them on your hand.
And it's something that, especially the younger kids nowadays, they don't think that they need to carry those. But they don't realize that they're dealing with people who are older and still love to have business cards. I love having the physical cards. I just do.
What if you're in a car, let's say you're in a rideshare and you're an aspiring musician, and you're driving for Uber or Lyft or whoever, and the guy in the back seat happens to be a record label exec or happens to be a producer or happens to be a manager, whatever title you're going to give that person, you have them for just a few minutes. Okay, now it doesn't matter whether it's a rideshare car or you're in a restaurant or you're on the street or at a workshop, you have them for a few minutes. How are you going to know that you can get that information in front of their hands? It's a business card.
Absolutely.
Because it's all about relationships. And I don't mean to harp on that, but it's been such a thing in the last few weeks.
And that's exactly when you don't give them your CD.
Yes, exactly.
All you're looking to do is, it's like any other kind of marketing. They say somebody has to see something 6 times before it makes an impression. That business card might just be one of those 6 times.
Yeah.
Oh, I ran into that kid. You hear his music on Spotify or somebody, refers him. Yeah, I ran into that kid. I remember him. He was really nice. Boom, boom, boom. You've already got that first rock out of the way.
We're going to take another break and get another word in for our sponsors. And then when we come back, I want to talk about your app that you've created, the Indie Connect app, I believe is the title for it. In the studio with us today, founder and CEO Vinny Rebus with Indie Connect, and you're listening to this edition of...
This is Claire Ratliff with Laughing Penguin Publicity, and you're listening to the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Wow, I just joined the Music Starts Here community. This is a truly hidden gem for anyone in the music business. Whether you live in Nashville or anywhere else in the world, Music Starts Here is like a GPS for your music career. This is the place to be if you want to get advice and direction from some seriously talented musical people who have been where you want to go. Music news, events, and a great big community with resources for artists, songwriters, musicians, studio and tech, along with music business advice from pros in the industry, all on one site? Make sure you get your free profile now. Go to www.musicstartshere.org. That's musicstartshere.org.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hey, we're back in the studio. Founder and CEO of Indie Connect, Vinny Rebus, is in the studio. Vinny, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be back.
Always good to have you here. We need to do this more often because you and I seem to have fun together when we do this.
Absolutely.
So you've created an app. We talk about the workshop. Let's talk about the app now because, first of all, everybody's got an app, it seems like anymore. You know, I go and get gas now at the gas station. Depending on which station it is, I open up that app to get my, 3 cents a gallon discount or 10 cents or, a free soda. This is something a whole lot more important to that. Or maybe I should say this is something that's a lot more important than that.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. It's called the Indie Connect app, and right now it is specifically for the Nashville music industry. I mean, is there a theme here? The idea is you can have all of the things that you need regarding the industry right there at your fingertips. Right now it's a web app, so you'd have to go to indieconnectapp.com from your phone to be able to get it to your home screen, but it's in beta.
Right.
It will be in the Play Store and Apple Store and everything, but right now we're testing out the different features. But the whole idea is that everything that you would want, whether you want to find out where the songwriter nights are tonight, or where the jam sessions are, or you want to find out what's going on in the industry, or you want just some inspiration, some daily tips on moving your career forward on a bite-sized piece of information. There's blogs. Business Side of Music podcast is in there, the entire website, so you can go right to that. It's designed to expedite access to all the information that an artist or a songwriter or an industry professional needs.
How much longer are you going to be into beta before
Couple of weeks.
Couple of weeks. Wow, so quick.
We're working on the last feature, which is a classified section. We'll have classified ads where you can sell things and buy things and stuff, but it's also, I need a drummer tonight. I need a band for this Saturday.
Oh, because that happens all the time in this town.
All the time.
Yeah.
There are places that you can go for that. There's a great Facebook group. Not everybody knows about that. We figure that this is going to be really critical. This community, again, we go back to the community. It is a community here. If we can make it so that, again, anything that you're trying to do, you have access to it right there at your fingertips, is just going to make life easier for everybody.
You talk about that, and I have a perfect example. About 7 years ago, I had an artist, in fact, was going to play at Fanfare. The guitarist had a death in the family, and this is literally a day before the artist is supposed to be playing at Fanfare or CMA Music Fest. And we had to find a guitarist, and it was made a couple phone calls. Who do you know? Who can you recommend? The next morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, we're at that guitar player's house learning the charts, learning the songs, and by 2 o'clock that afternoon, they were performing. This is such a better version because let me tell you, it was about probably 10 or 15 phone calls to get to that one person, where if you have this in an app, especially through a classified, is this person available? Is this person available? It saves a lot of wear and tear on you.
That's going to be, I think, one of the biggest features in here. There's not only all the events, there's the networking events in town. We talked about plugging in.
There's a ton of networking events. In fact, there's so many, you can't go to all of them. Mm-hmm. And I see them every day, and people will message me on Facebook, or they'll text me, hey, you going to such and such event tonight? And it's like, that's like one of 3. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot going on in this town all the time.
And there are organizations just for networking.
And we're not talking about concerts. We're talking about networking events.
Industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Industry events.
Yep. And showcases, which we'll get to. We'll end up having showcases. We got to get to the point where a lot of people have the app and they start submitting that kind of stuff. We have fun things in there, marketing pieces. So we have a new music Nashville Spotify playlist that is right in there. So people can submit their songs, and if it's halfway decent, we'll put it on the playlist. And then we encourage everybody to go ahead and listen to the playlist often. And it's working. I mean, I've gotten, in just a couple of weeks, I think I've got 50-something submissions.
How deep is that playlist?
Right now, it's about 40 songs.
Yeah, and it'll be deeper? Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Americana charts, that's one of the things I love about them. They don't round to the top 30 or the top 40. The Americana list goes pretty deep. And I think that's important because there's so much great music out there. You shouldn't restrict it to those 20 or 30 or 40 songs, yeah.
The talent pool in this town is so amazing, and I knew it, and you know it when you go out and see people perform, but when you actually hear their creativity and the stuff that they're putting out, especially the Belmont students and Murfreesboro, MTSU students and everything, these music industry I mean, it's just incredible the stuff that we're getting from them. We also have a playlist for new music videos for Nashville-based.
Very nice.
We also have a Just for Fun tab where I put in humorous videos and stuff like that.
I've got a couple of those I can submit.
I'm sure you do, and some that people would not want. We have a list of all the nonprofits, and it's separated by, is this something that you can volunteer for, or is this someplace where you can get help, like Music Cares, where if you're a musician and you've got medical challenges or something, they might help pay for it.
Right.
Or they'll refer you to a doctor who'll do it for free or, very inexpensively. And it's amazing. I mean, that's been such a huge boon for so many musicians here. But those kind of things are there. We're doing daily discounts. That's what we want to get to daily. Right now, it's just deals and discounts. People that will offer, $25 off on a vocal lesson if you have the app. We're going to start doing our own events where the only way you can get in without paying is to show the app.
Right.
And it'll be our networking events, very much like our old Indie Connect meetings where there'll be masterminding and stuff like that. We're making it feature-rich, but it's not going to be so overwhelming. It's going to be, okay, what I really need is I need more industry information. Great. I can go to the education tab, the learn tab, and here I go. Got everything that I'm looking for. I can listen to the podcasts. I can follow a couple of different, like there's a gentleman named Dean Kay. He's not here. He's out of L.A., but he was the president of ASCAP. He wrote That's Life for Frank Sinatra. But he's a huge advocate for songwriters. He puts out a daily blast about 15 different articles and blogs and everything from all these different sites. So he's the curator of all this information on what's happening in the industry from the copyright and songwriting side of things. So we put that in there because it's a new list every day. I mean, you can stay up on the industry. You can find the events that you want. We've got several event feeds. So the fun stuff is on Now Playing Nashville, and Music Starts Here. And then we've got our networking events on there and workshops and stuff like that.
We always say you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. But in this case, it's anything you can pull out of this and absorb and retain or put somewhere for future reference it's only going to help you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's designed to be a tool. That's the bottom line. It's designed to be a tool. Yes, you can use it just for fun. You can look up what concerts are going on, stuff like that. That's great. But it's designed to be a tool. You want to plug into the industry? Here, look at all the different organizations that you can volunteer at, or the ones like Young Entertainment Professionals that run networking events and run mixers and stuff like that. It's a lot of that insider information. Obviously it's just kind of, here it is. Here's all these different organizations. Now you got to sort through them.
Yeah, it's almost an overload of wealth of information. But there's nothing wrong with that.
You've got one tab to go to if this is what you're looking for.
You can dissect or parsect it, I should say.
There's a great menu on there with I think it's got 12 different tabs on it, so it's really divided up.
So eventually it'll be on the phone, it'll be, like you said, through Play Store or Apple.
Right. They'll be in the stores. Right now you can go to indieconnectapp.com. And it'll tell you how to add it to your home screen.
Any cost for it?
No cost.
Yeah.
That's one of the things we are going to do. We're not going to charge for the app, but we will have an upsell to like a $2.99 or $4.99 one down the road.
Right.
And that will have a lot more probably industry education, bigger deals, bigger maybe like song pitches, opportunities, things like that. Maybe, something from Music Row or Rowfax. If we can get them on board to put some of the pitches in there and we're paying them to do that, something like that.
Let's jump back to the workshop real quick. How can people find out about it and what's the cost for that?
It's pluggingintonashville.com, pluggingintonashville.com. The 3-day conference is $297. You can add another $50 and we'll feed you for the 3 days for lunches. But you can also participate online. So we'll be broadcasting it live.
Oh, wow.
So that's $197. I highly encourage anybody who is planning on coming to town, who visits on a regular basis, or, whether you're moving here or you're just visiting, you want to maximize your time here.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. It's about maximizing your effort and your time. Anybody who's trying to get plugged into the industry, no matter where you are, should participate in it. And I think price point for $300, I think we can knock off a year of the amount of time that it would take you to get into the industry.
Well, and not only knock off a year of time, but probably thousands of dollars of unneeded, unnecessary expenses.
Absolutely.
And you brought up something too. I think when people come to Nashville, don't come just for a weekend. Don't come for just 2 or 3 days. First of all, don't come just on a weekend because a lot of the people, a lot of the places, they're not open. They're not around. Right. You should really plan on coming for a week or so to really get a flavor of what this town is about. And building that around this workshop is a smart idea as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's critical that when you come to town, you know ahead of time, okay, these are the events that I'm going to go see. So you have the app, you can check into that. These are the people I want to go meet. These are the people that were at the workshop that I exchanged business cards with and had lunch with. We'll make a referral to, the right producer for you. The producers that are there may not be the right producers, and maybe they are. Maybe you want to build a relationship with them. They will make referrals. That's what I do all day long. That's why the company's called Indie Connect. And I'll be there, and I'll be referring a whole lot of people out. One of our faculty is Gary Earl. Gary's had hundreds and hundreds of cuts in film and TV, and he's going to tell you how to get plugged in here. Who are the music supervisors and the publishers and stuff that work really heavily on sync, and who do you avoid? I think we'll tell you, look out for this.
More of encouragement than discouragement.
If they ask for this, if they won't give you, for example, if they won't give you a pitch sheet of where they pitched it, you've got to ask for that up front. Will you give me this? If they won't give you that, they're not reputable. Because that's part of what should happen when you go to get somebody who's pitching songs, whether it's for film and TV or to publishers.
And don't be afraid to ask. It's your career, after all.
It's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is what can you ask for? What should you ask for? What's going to brand you as an amateur versus a professional?
How can people find you?
I'm at Indie Connect. You can reach me directly at vinny@indieconnect.com. And the app is at indieconnectapp.com.
And then the workshop again?
Pluggingintonashville.com. Everything is on Indie Connect, though. If you want to go to indieconnect.com, you can get to the app, you can get to the workshop.
And I can tell you from personal experience, Vinny doesn't sleep. You're up all the time. I get emails or texts from you in the middle of the night or early in the morning, and I don't know how you do it, but God bless you. You
just
do
passionate about it.
Yeah, you are. You are.
I'm a consultant. I'm a artist manager. I manage an artist who was signed to a really horrific 360 deal and was tied up with that when they didn't do anything for 10 years and had to go to court to get out of it. I loathe hearing those stories, which is why we built this. It's not to get clients. It's not to put anybody, I can't promise that I'm going to make somebody famous out of this.
And anybody does, run.
Yeah, absolutely. If somebody tells you they can make you a star, absolutely stay away.
And we know those people.
We do know those people. And it's really interesting. Probably one of the biggest things that can happen is if you have your network of people you trust who know people in the industry, they also know who to tell you to stay away from. So you can say, I was approached or I heard about this person. What do you think? And they will be honest with you.
Right.
You need those kind of relationships because otherwise that's when you really, really get sucked into those sharks.
Vinny, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Bob.
We're going to do this again.
I'd love it.
Don't forget to check out our affiliates, including Lab Canna, fine hemp products since 2014. Click on their link on our website for more information and how to order their product line. If you're interested in getting your music into film or television, click on the Sync Songwriter link on our website. Absolutely the best way to get your songs listened to by top TV and film music supervisors. This is how you can get your songs quickly licensed for your favorite TV shows and movies. Click on our website link to get a free digital copy of Larry Butler's new rulebook for singers and songwriters. 101 ways to help improve your chances of success. Also, check out our other affiliate, Music Starts Here. You can find them at musicstartshere.org. Probably the best one-stop shop for the singer, songwriter, or aspiring musician who's relocating to Nashville or wants to. Last but not least, shameless plug for this podcast. Become a YouTube subscriber by going to the Business Side of Music page. You can hear all of our released episodes there. Also, check out our website at businesssideofmusic.com. Follow us on Facebook at the Business Side of Music Podcast and on Twitter at BizSideOfMusic.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Traci Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Los Angeles, California and Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Fuson.